Thank you very much for speaking with me. I really do appreciate it.
Absolutely.
The last month, you received the Golden Globe for Best Actress in a Drama, making you the first Indigenous person to receive this award. Now you're up for an Oscar. How has life changed for you?
Um, I mean, from here to here, what I can see, not a lot has changed, but also, I don't know, that feeling when you're walking up to somebody that maybe you went to high school with, maybe like, from something, but you think maybe you know them because there's this look of recognition between the two of you. I've just come to learn that, oh, I actually don't know you, you know me. So that's yeah, getting picked out of by my Lyft driver the other day. I had my mask on, but could still pick me out from my voice. That's all of that's taking a little bit of getting used to, but then you just kind of get used to it.
Yeah, okay. Being recognized by your voice, that's special. I have not had that. I'm
That
glad.
is, yeah, yeah. It's a distinct voice, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. And with winning that award, I'm curious, like how do you make such a award and propel that to a larger change in Hollywood and prevent it from just being kind of a feel-good moment in Hollywood?
Right. And I think the cynical view would be to take it that way, just like, the checking a box moment. But there have been so many nominations over the years that, they stand out and they're nominated. It's not like there's a lack of films out there with incredible native indigenous performances in them. It's just once in a while, the Academy will take notice because they're outstanding, exceptional performances. I mean, I remember what it felt like for me both times in my life where an Indigenous woman has been nominated for lead actress, like Keisha Castle Hughes for Whale Rider and Yalitza Aparicio for Roma, and what that meant for me. Because it was, the representation of being nominated, but it was also just how incredible these two actresses were in these films that just felt so relatable. Just celebrating that there's that kind of story that people are watching and engaging with and taking notice of. And, here we are again. I happen to be holding it this time, holding this nomination, as, just happened to be the greatest living filmmaker, Martin Scorsese, who took on the film this time. So people are going to take notice of that. Um, it's a testament to, how how much our stories really matter. Like this one has been around, it's 100 years later. The Reign of Terror was 100 years ago. Yet we're still kind of dealing with a lot of the same things that our ancestors were dealing with back then. It's just kind of time. It's time that there be these roles carved out in an epic like this film that Martin Scorsese's created, where you see Native women taking up these spaces on screen, looking like, the golden age of cinema, and like being fixtures in that. It's like every performance in this, every Native character in this was crafted with such skill and humanity. um it's time. There's a larger narrative at play in the story that of course can echo out in, a macro scale. Like our story is this really difficult, almost impossible to imagine love story, yet it's such an analogy for the relationship Indigenous people have with colonizing governments. This ongoing entering into a relationship built on what you hope is going to be mutual trust, but one party just continuing to erode the sovereignty of the other over a period of time. It was all in this film. So yeah, it's really meaningful that this kind of story holds resonance that people can reflect on collectively right now. And it's just it's a moment, and there are going to be many, many more to come. And luckily there are a lot of other astounding leading performances carried by Native people that are out there right now. So it's definitely a moment that's shared.
And something a lot of people have learned after you won this award and as you become more of a household name is that you're from Montana, the Blackfeet Reservation. You're a University of Montana graduate. I am as well, Phil Grizz. And you also narrated a documentary that will be shown at Missoula's Big Sky Documentary Film Festival this weekend. So it's fair to say you've stayed very involved in Big Sky country. What has kept you coming back to Montana?
I mean, the 7 years that I spent in adolescence in Seattle, just like that was enough for me. I ran back to Montana for school and stayed really until I've kind of been a nomad the last 6, 7 years with my career. Um, Montana's where I was born. It's where I was raised. It's where my career really grew. I became a SAG actor and an equity actor out of Missoula. It's there's no place in the world like it because there's no place in the world that's there's no other place in the world where Blackfeet people come from. That's like Canada and that part of Montana, northwestern Montana near Glacier. It's like that's our land, and it's such a gift to be able to grow up in your land. Um, it's it's so precious to me that, and also not a surprise that there's so much excellence that come from where we come from. It's like there's always an interest in Montana. I feel there's always a bit of a romanticism and fascination with what it is to be in Montana, from Montana, and it is pretty magical. So I'm really, really grateful that, with this film, with Bring Them Home, it goes back to when I was honestly at a summer camp. I was in Seattle and took the opportunity to go back to my res for a summer to do a native waters camp, where we were learning about biodiversity and protection of waterway systems from a cultural lens. And I remember back then talking about buffalo revitalization and hearing from Wilbur Fish and like a lot of elders in our community who hold traditional knowledge and articulate it alongside and through a scientific lens about just keeping an ecosystem in balance. And in doing that, we keep ourselves in balance. And I remember back then just imagining a world where the few buffalo I was seeing roam around, those early herds in between East Glacier and Browning, would pop up on the road every once in a while. I remember imagining and wanting to see them all through the park, back where they belong. So it was so touching when Ivan and Ivy, who I met in Missoula, who were just fantastic filmmakers, came on board with this film and really took over, and it's just, they're the ones who really did the work, them and Daniel Glick. And it's just, it was amazing to be able to voice it and watch my cousins out there on the four-wheelers, on the horses, like running with the buffalo, the way that when I was 16, I went home, I would just imagine, playing Make the Buffalo Run and learning about just our relationship with them. It's incredible to see a world coming to fruition that you wanted to see when you were a kid. Like, I honestly wasn't sure it was going to happen in my lifetime. I'm so grateful. Another alum, Lauren Monroe, who's on council and has done a lot to help get those buffalo back into the park, back into Chief Mountain. I mean, it's just so perfect that that's where they return. So anyway, I wish I could be there for the premiere next week, but booked up here.